Well, last week, Jim Edwards from Hastings received the Pride of New Zealand Lifetime Achievement Award for the decades he spent sharing Māori cultural practices with people who have disabilities. But he's struggling to keep his doors open because of continual delays by the government to action its new model for supporting disabled people. Carmen Parahi reports.
OK, I'll bring the ramps down. So you can hop down on the ladder now and we'll go down and do the front half. Are you OK to climb up?
Jim Edwards has been barking orders with care and respect for decades.
The whole thing. Where the hell's the other one? I think it's in the box here. Sorry about the language. OK, and that should pop out. And then we'll just leave the top one on. Don't forget to pump your oil.
Everyone is treated the same here and expected to work, whether they have disabilities or not.
Hold it, you're going too deep. You're pushing it through, you actually should drag it along.
Ngā Tukemata or Kahungunu is a one-of-a-kind waka a wall canoe for men and women to use. It's privately owned by Jim and his whānau and held in a trust. It's been the focal point for Jim's unique therapy since 1994.
Guys.
Community work he's received public awards and recognition for.
Down and around the other side. The hands and the mind, the therapy with the hands and the mind can create wonders, you know, if you give it time. Now when you cut on an angle, like that. They only wanted someone to be actually take notice of them and to try and help them, to listen to them, to listen to their stories and give them some sort of, you know, incentive in moving forward. We're going to add timber onto the side so it's about that wide, and it comes up behind the head, give that flare of the corduroy.
Men with disabilities come here to learn how to care for the waka, carve and weave, while also learning Māori cultural practices. They travel to Wairoa every year to live on a marae for a week.
We've got to maintain that same trend, that we must keep our culture alive, and the only way to keep it alive is by offering it to all. You try and flick those plugs up somehow if you can. You've got to roll them here like that, it's easier. Don't bugger your back up.
Jim receives $3,700 for each student per year. The funding hasn't increased since 2004. For the past 5 years, the government has been promising to implement a new model for supporting disabled people. Jim says it's confusing and he isn't hopeful it will mean more funding for his waka program. He's often reached into his own pocket to keep the waka afloat and the students busy and engaged.
Every time he comes out, it's $10,000 to maintain him every 2 years. He's got to be fully licensed before he goes back. All the life jackets, all the support boats have got to be upgraded. I can't operate it after this when he's finished till the inspector comes over and inspects him. Gives him a full watch of fitness. Morning there, Nathan. How are you, my boy? All right? Get your stencil out and do a bit of marking for our hands, please.
Unsurprisingly, the small amount of funding and uncertainty around the government's changes is putting pressure on Jim and his students.
Disability side could wind down to a lower number, but the waka will always continue because we own that personally. It creates its own income. And with my students, when I mentioned it to them, they said, we're staying. You know, I said, you've got the option of moving on to another program. It may happen. I said, we've seen land schools close last year. There we are. Try and get it out like that, guys. And then we can use the same rope.
Jim relies heavily on volunteers because he can't afford to pay for workers, usually former students.
Good one, Paul.
He says other hands-on community disability programs have been forced to close, and he's one of few still standing in Hawke's Bay.
Disabled will always continue regardless of the funding situation because I think there's a need, and the waka's got to have people. Doesn't matter whether they're physically fit or disabled. I prefer the disabled because I know they are dedicated to a cause that they love to be part of, and that's the beauty of it, you know, and I'd be lost without them. Go and grab a chair, Dave, and sit over here, or sit over here and do it.
Jim's promising to continue supporting people with disabilities, but after 21 years of service, he's unsure for how much longer.